Welcome to a new episode of Quarantine Catch Up. I am your host, Tommy Rinaldi, and as always, I am joined by Chris Famulero. Before we get into our next guest, we just want to say Happy New Year from the One Shot family. We hope that you guys enjoy everything that comes within this year. But if you could, please quickly subscribe to the channel. It's a quick, free, and easy way to support us, and we really do appreciate it. But we get into our first special guest of the year. She is a yogi. She's a wanderer of the world, and she's a Beatles super fan. Please welcome to the show, Erika Szumel. Erika, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing great. I love the intro. Thank you.
We do our best to make everybody feel as special as possible. But what we do want to know is, have you been really trying to enjoy your time during this weird quarantine era that we've been in? What have you been watching? What have you been listening to?
Yeah, so definitely trying to keep myself distracted from everything going on in the world. But I've been reading a lot of different books. I've been going to the bookstore and buying books. I read Matthew McConaughey's book. It's called Green Lights, and I thought it was really good. And I think like anyone would like it. It's just like he calls it like a love letter to life. And I don't know if you've ever seen an interview with him. He's like super charismatic.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, so I was like very interested in reading that, and I really liked it. And watching wise, I finally finished Grey's Anatomy at the right time, because clearly it's the latest season was throughout the pandemic. And then I just watched Bridgerton, which is, typical. I think it's like a very girly show, but I also thought it was great. And I'm probably listening to like my classics, which is like the Beatles, the Gaslight Anthem, like 70s rock, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, you bring up some of your favorite bands, from my memory at least. And I think we'll jump right into a tough question, I think, that we'll pose for you. And it's a Sophie's choice, which means that we'll be pinning two of your higher favorite things and see if you pick one of them, the other one goes away completely. So if you had to pick between the two, the Beatles or Gaslight Anthem, who would you completely erase from history, and who would you continue to have for yourself?
Oh my God.
There's a chance you could erase all of musical history here.
I know, like no pressure on this answer.
This is just to your taste, though.
That's really hard because they're not like super similar, like musically sounding bands. So, yeah. I mean, obviously I'm going to say the Beatles because yes, the Beatles were like super influential for all of the entire rock genre and the time period. And they were just a band that like seriously like, what's the word?
Like they influenced everybody.
Yeah, but they also like grew and they evolved over time. That's the word I want to say. They evolved over time. So when you listen to their early music, it's like more like boy bandish kind of stuff that you'd expect. But then obviously in the 70s, when like, sex, drugs, and rock and roll became a thing, it was like much more psychedelic. And I think that's what makes the band so great, is that they evolved over time, and it was like such different and diverse music throughout the decades. And as much as I love the Gaslight Anthem, there's a bunch of side projects that I could also listen to and I guess enjoy somewhat the same amount as the Gaslight Anthem, even though I love them. And I'm sorry if you see it.
Understood. And Chris, I'll pose one to you. Similar question. I think we'll go with Joji or Flume for you.
Man, the whole point of this podcast is to not have these questions directed at me. God.
I got to get you involved, though.
That's so frustrating, though, because they're two totally different genres. God, I would probably go with Flume, frankly. It really hurts my heart to say that, but I've been listening to Flume since I was like 13, so
just a little more history
it's
there.
Just such, and I've seen Flume live. Like I can say that I haven't seen Joji live. I would love to, and I'm trying to, but pandemic and all. So I would have to go with Flume.
Yeah, I feel like live events and seeing people in concert is something that both of you really do enjoy, and that's a nice transition into Erika, your love of concerts and really the whole music vibe within Asbury Park, which is about where you're from and everything like that. So what is your connection with Asbury Park and music and concerts and everything of that nature?
What is my connection?
Yes.
Oh, okay. This is hard because like I think I just really started to enjoy going to shows, and I would go to any kind of show, especially in college, even like if I was going by myself, because I just like love live music, and I really don't think there is anything better than watching a band play a song that you like or don't know on a stage, and you're in a crowd of people with like just like I feel like the rock genre is the most amazing energy. And I'm sure like, you know, people who listen to rap, who listen to house music, who listen to whatever would say the same thing, country music. Like, but for me, like when I hear a guitar or I hear a bass, I'm just like it gets me like going. Like I'm like, I want to dance. I want to like, you know, feed that energy. And I love being in a crowd doing that. And I mean, Asbury Park, like there's just so much history there with rock and roll and with Bruce Springsteen, and you know the Gaslight Anthem's connected there because of their connection to Bruce, and it's like really just become like a second home to me. And I feel so lucky that I've been able to go there and watch shows and just like hang out. And I don't know if I mean you've been there, so and fam, you've been there, so like the energy all the time is just like cool. It's just like a cool place to be, and I think everybody has just like a really good vibe, you know? That's the best way I could say it, is like it's got a good vibe.
Yeah, nothing really compares to Asbury in the summer, especially if you're walking on the boardwalk, like right by either Wonder Bar or Stone Pony, and you just like there's a live show happening outside. It's like an atmosphere. It's unrivaled, at least for any place that I've been from. I mean, Erika and I are not that far away, at least hometown wise, from Asbury. So it's like if you had nothing to do on a Friday night, and even if it was a local band playing at Stone Pony, there's like a 95% chance you were going to have a great time because there's so much to do, and it's such a good historic environment for music.
Yeah, and one thing it's just the arts and the culture are so big, and I've talked to like multiple people in the area because I made like my senior project on Asbury Park, and and Tommy, you were there, and I interviewed the people that worked at the venues, and I just like I loved talking to them. Like I talked to Scott at the Saint, which is I believe still running, even though there was issues financially, obviously, now that the pandemic is a thing. But and I also talked to Kyle at the Stone Pony, which is like the most iconic venue I think that New Jersey has to offer, both in inside and the summer stage. Everybody knows the Stone Pony, and everybody knows what the summer stage is. And then later on in college, or actually, well, I guess last year, 2 years ago, I was writing a freelance story for a magazine about Asbury Park, and I talked to more people that live and work there, and I spoke to this woman who runs the Wooden Walls Project, which is all those I'm so sorry, my words are so bad right now. It's 6 p.m. That's why.
No worries.
I sound like an old person.
Listen, I have a blanket around my shoulders. I'm an old person here right now.
It's the like all the paintings on the walls, the murals on the walls, and all the like the buildings that were kind of like left abandoned and stuff. She's the one who organized that project, and that was originally intended to bring people to Asbury, to get them to visit, to make them feel safe, because when people see art, she said, then they feel safe. So yeah, I mean, it's so amazing. And I feel like you can walk down the street and talk to someone and just be like, learn something new every time you go.
Erika, what is the best like live music experience you have had so far? I'm really interested, especially for the fact that you've gone to so many and in different places.
Oh boy.
You thought his question was tough.
I think I need a minute to talk. I need a minute to figure this out, because I mean, like, I did see Paul McCartney, and that was amazing because he's in his 70s and the dude is just like ripping it. Like, I mean, I was crying. I cried like 3 times. Like I was like shaking. We were in the nosebleeds and I was shaking and crying. So that was a big one. And I went with my parents, which I know they like really enjoyed it. But I don't know if I could say that's the best one. That might be. I also feel like it's probably been, oh, okay, here's another one. And this one did happen at the Stone Pony, the Gaslight Anthem. They took a break for several years, and they're still currently on a break. I don't really think they're ever gonna get back together and make music again. They might do like reunion shows. And that's what happened a couple years ago. They did like a reunion tour, 10th anniversary of their album, The 59 Sound, which is like a fantastic album. I recommend it to everyone that I talk to. It's like really they're like, I don't want to say it's their best album, but it's fantastic and I love it. And they did this reunion tour and they were at the Stone Pony for 3 nights. And I bought tickets to 2 of them with one of my really good friends that we go to shows together. And then finally on like the second day before the second show, we were like, why are we not going to this third show? Like, we live in the area. It's going to be amazing. Like, we have to go to the third show. So we went Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the Stone Pony Summer Stage, and we watched the Gaslight Anthem play 3 different sets, similar sets, but we heard some songs that we don't always hear. And I'm really glad I heard them because I was just like so happy, like on cloud 9, I think, for like weeks after those shows. And it was cool because it was just like I really felt like I was celebrating them, and you know, not knowing when they're going to play again together. It was like, I think by far like the best weekend of my life.
That's really awesome to hear. And I understand that sentiment of seeing a band multiple times and like you don't always get the song you want to hear, but each time there's a new song. And that's something that's really exciting. But you mentioned earlier that the lady earlier, she has murals all over Asbury to kind of inspire art into everybody and share that experience. Where does your love of art come from, whatever medium it may be?
I think honestly, I started dancing when I was 4 or 3. I'm sorry, I was 3. And I think it really stems from that because growing up, like dance became my own art form because obviously we know dance is art, but it's also a lot of athleticism. And weirdly enough, I'm 5'10" and I'm like pretty solid woman. Like growing up, I was still pretty tall and I fell in love with ballet. And not that ballerinas aren't tall, but like it wasn't, it didn't really seem to go, I guess. But because I was kind of like a graceful giant or a gentle giant. And I really think ballet is just like where it all started. I just fell in love with really sort of honing my craft and like being so articulate and meticulous with my feet and my arms and everything that like ballet brings into life. I think that's pretty much where it all started. And then it bled into like photo, video, writing. Like I think I do all of it, which is kind of crazy to think about. When I step back, I'm like, whoa, like you do a lot of different stuff, but I like it. It's what I love. Like I love being able to express myself. I love, I find so much joy in it.
Yeah, and art is really a way to show off your passion, which is really nice to hear that you've been able to do that in so many different facets. You've really grown into, at least from my knowledge, into the TV world and everything through Seton Hall and everything of that nature. What really grabbed your attention from that TV world that you kind of wanted to step into it and kind of understand it better?
Well, I started working at the local station at my high school, and I fell in love with it there because we had, a very small news studio with all the jobs of like director, like TD, graphics, camera people, anchors, all of that. We had all of it. And of course, it was a much smaller scale than like what I learned at Seton Hall and then what I went on to do at internships. But it was still like just like a fun experience. And I really liked being in a control room and I liked the technical side of it. And that was pretty much it. That's pretty much where I made up my mind that I was like, I know I want to keep going with this. And I knew that like video kind of was hand in hand with that. Even if I didn't end up like really in TV, then at least I had like some video skills that I could also pursue.
Yeah, that's great. And we mentioned Seton Hall, and I just want to know what Seton Hall meant for you. I mean, you were part of the producer group at PTV that really taught me and fam and the rest of us what to do and how to conduct ourselves within that environment. What did Seton Hall bring for you?
Yeah, Seton Hall was great. I mean, when I look back on it now, like Seton Hall brought me like some of the best friendships of my life. And it definitely taught me a lot about what I went to school for, but also really, I think the biggest lesson I learned out of all of it was just like reaching out and keeping and maintaining connections in any form, whether that's just like a friendship, whether it's with a professor that you like, whether it's, actually for your job, your internships, whatever. I think that's like one of the biggest lessons that I really like took with me from all of it, was that it's so important to keep those people around, or like check in every once in a while, and not be afraid to reach out and say like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Hey, this is what I'm looking for. Can you just keep me in mind? Because I think people really remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they, the more, I'm not saying I'm pummeling people with emails, but like, I think, the more that your name pops up every once in a while is a really good thing. And I don't think I would have really known that if it hadn't been for Seton Hall.
As I mean, all of us now are college graduates, and you are clearly a professional working in in the media industry. How, because something we all learn as students is the importance of connections, whether that's using LinkedIn and having actual connections there, or like you're saying, maintaining the personal connections by keeping your name in people's minds. How have you felt that it has affected your growth so far in the media industry, being able to rely on those connections, or not being able to rely on those connections, and more so, you having to prove yourself?
Yeah. And I think really in today's day and age, like, connections are 100% necessary. And I really kind of hate to say that, because I know what it's like to want to apply to jobs where you don't know anyone, and you get excited and you're like, this sounds perfect. I want to do this. I could see myself doing it. I know I'd be good at it. But what ends up happening is you end up in a pile, and that's what stinks is, there are tons of people in this field and in this industry in all different facets of it. So I think it really is like, you really need to sort of learn how to pivot sometimes, but also, yeah, like for me personally, connections have absolutely helped me. I started working after college, and I had one job that was not through a connection. And then I had another job that was through one of my internships. And I ended up going basically to the same department, just doing a little bit of a different job. And now, even with my current position, I think, elevated my resume and my cover letter because I had a connection and someone knew me. And it actually happened to be one of the students that we worked with at PTV, which was super cool. And I was obviously very excited about that. But it is kind of sad that it seems like connections are so important today. And I wish there was a way we could change that, but I don't really think that there is. I will say, though, I do think it helps when you apply to a job, whether it's like on Indeed or you're applying to a LinkedIn job, that you try to find someone who is connected to that company, and you reach out and you just say, hi, I applied to this. Here's my resume. Like, I just wanted to express my interest. And 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get a response, or they're going to open it and not respond, whatever. But then you will also find people that will respond and will say, okay, like, I'll push it forward for you, or like, okay, thanks for sending it. You know what I mean? At least some acknowledgement. And I think sometimes those little connections can make a difference and can help you get something that you want, or push you in the direction that you want to go.
Taking a lot of mental notes right now, because I'm still unemployed and I'm still fighting for that next job. But you mentioned having connections at PTV led you to these bigger opportunities. And I just wanted to know what, maybe 1, 2, 3, whatever it may be, experiences at PTV, whether it was during studio time or afterwards, just hanging out with friends. What are some moments that really stood out to you at your time with PTV?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, we made so many good friends in PTV. Like, I mean, even with you guys, like, I really loved my senior year and my junior year, sort of starting to bring you guys in and teach you the ropes a little bit. But you guys were already like really smart and you knew what you were doing. Like, I'm not taking any credit for what you knew and do now. I'm just saying, like, it was really nice to have that sort of like transition from being the one that was being taught to being someone who was teaching. And I mean, I started producing when I was a sophomore, I think, and I was producing with my roommate Erin at the time. And I remember being like, wow, like, I feel kind of young to do this in terms of PT life. But that's when Katie was our executive producer, and Katie was awesome. And she was like so welcoming to us. And she had like no doubt from the beginning that any of us could do it. And, obviously, I don't want to say that PTV wasn't hard, but you know what I mean? But yeah, I think really it was like that transition from being taught to like teaching that was like one of the best parts of the whole experience for me. And then like special moments, I don't know, there was a lot. We did a lot of crazy stuff there, but it was fun.
Yeah, and that transition that you're talking about is something that was very interesting, at least for me. I feel like for Chris as well. it was a weird thing to be like, all right, these are all my peers, but I have to still be able to teach them and be a higher being within this organization. Chris, do you have any specific like teaching moment that you were proud of within PTV?
Well, it's kind of funny. I wanted to touch back on Erika, claiming that she doesn't have any influence on our success or not. Erika, I have as a mentor on my resume. Fun fact.
Oh.
How sweet.
But also, it's like, Tommy, we had this on an earlier quarantine catch up. But Erika, when we started teaching younger students to come in and be producers, the funniest thing to me that they would say is that they had this like fear. Not fear of like talking to us, but like a fear almost out of like respect and wanting to not cross any boundaries, I guess, or like not do anything wrong. And it's so funny because I connected with them in that sense when I first stepped in to
100%.
when I stepped into PTV to start learning. Like, I remember I had already had 2 years and a degree under my belt thanks to Ocean County College, and you and I came from the same area. And granted, you're only 1 year older than us, but like I was terrified to like ask to do anything, and if I did finally get to do it, I was like petrified of doing anything wrong, which is so funny because you guys didn't make it that way at all. It's just, I guess, kind of the mindset that you have when you want to take in that kind of leadership role that a producer has. It's almost like this mentality of, okay, well, they gave you the opportunity, don't mess it up, which I guess is kind of carried on. It usually carries on to people in our industry when they go on to get a job later on. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think me personally, I really didn't want it to be scary for anybody, but I also like really wanted to like help you guys like get to where you wanted. And I feel like as a student to another student, then there is really no hierarchy. You know what I mean? Like there was no reason for me to be any sort of way. Of course, like we were all really busy. Like all of us were doing 5 different activities every day of the week, going to class, working, like interning, you know what I mean? Like we were all doing so much. And I feel like that's kind of relevant to like the major is like, we're all like hustling and we're all trying to like make our way. So I know there were days when like we would all be cranky and like we wanted to get out of there because we were like, it's late, like I'm tired, I want to go home, but I think on the whole, especially with your group and my group, I feel like we meshed together so well. And like, I was so like, when my class graduated, I felt like we were so proud of you guys. And like, you all had already taken it and like run with it before we had left. And like, I'm like happy you did. I'm not insulted or like taken aback by that at all. I'm like happy that you did because, both of you, I'm sure can say that like, the having those experiences with PTV and like the lessons that you learned, you carrying them on. And even if it's not into TV directly, you're still like, you learned a lot in terms of, like you said, leadership and like that kind of thing that you carry into other parts of your life. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I agree. It's also going back on the, we were constantly busy all the time. I think that even transcends now. Like we've all graduated and we're past PTV and we're all trying to make our way into the field. And we're still now finding time to do stuff creatively on the side, because I think just as people who we are and the things we want to do, we have that itch that almost can't be scratched by a full-time position. Whereas, you are doing creative writing stuff when it comes to, traveling and cuisine and, health when it comes to, living and educating people on diabetes and stuff like that. I think, photography, dance, art, it's something that we also try and do on this side with One Shot, and some people with streaming or playing music, and it's like this personality type that you only find in this area of the industry of like media production, I guess, that like people, we just constantly want to be doing things, or we always want to be busy.
Yeah, it's so true. It is so true. And I think it's just like doing it on the side, not working, like just doing it for yourself and doing it, obviously you guys are doing this and it's great and it will be good for you to show this to employers and be like, hey, look at this thing I made. Look at the initiative that I put in, getting these guests and talking and, everything. But I think it's like you said, it's like scratching an itch that you like can't not scratch, especially if your job isn't meeting that itch completely. It might be a little bit, but not completely. And I think that's normal, especially when we start out in the beginning, is obviously we're working the jobs that maybe, not that no one wants to work the jobs, but obviously you have to work your way up the ladder in a lot of places. So I think it's like, it's absolutely like fantastic to keep doing things on the side and making sure you're like making yourself happy with all that other creative stuff, because you never know, one day it could, you know, lead you to another opportunity, but also you'll have all this stuff to look back on and say like, hey, I made that and that was awesome and I loved creating that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And whether it is just for passion or it is something that could eventually boost you in the future, we've kind of talked about how you're somewhat of a Renaissance woman in your own right, and you have your hand in a little bit of everything. And I wanted to talk about more of like your traveling and writing for that traveling blog that you have for yourself. What's that experience been like to go to different places, experience different cultures, and then be able to write about it and share it with other people?
Yeah, well, thank you for calling me a Renaissance woman. I'm going to start calling myself that.
Perfect.
And
You deserve it.
And this, I don't know, I feel so lucky, and I don't want to come off as like one of those basic, can I curse on this show?
Yes, feel free.
One of those basic bitches that like just like travels and like, I don't know, has a ton of money and stuff, because I'm not like rolling in dough. But I've been very lucky, and I've been really good at saving my money and paying for myself to go on these trips. And I honestly, like, it's kind of crazy. I think that the cards have kind of just like fallen correctly for me. And the people that I've traveled with have been like close friends. And it's just like, you know, that's part of the experience, is like who you go with. But the moment I started going places and just like learning about the world and like how different other places are than where we live, than New Jersey, than Asbury Park, like, even though I love New Jersey and I will never trash talk it, only some of it, but not all of it. I just like, I fell in love with being able to like share the stories and the little things and like the overall feeling that I got when I went to a place, and being able to just tell people that, you know, not everywhere you go is going to be like the most exciting or is going to like resonate with you as much as other places do. But I feel like in every place that you go, you can really like find some sort of a connection. And it's crazy because, like I said, like there have been some times where like things have just like fallen into place so nicely. And I'm just like, this is fate. Like there's no way that this happened because I was here. You know what I mean? Like it's weird. And like you like taste a little bit of that energy, and it just makes you want to keep doing it over and over and over again. Like for example, and I'm going to bring them up again because they're my favorite band, but the Beatles. I was in Germany with my friend, and we were staying at this hostel, and we were in Belgium with her aunt, and we decided to take like a $20 flight from Ryanair, the cheap airline of Europe, to Hamburg, Germany for a weekend. We were like, hey, why not? It's like $20. Why not, right? Yeah. Hostels are super cheap. So we spent very little money to get there and to stay there. And the hostel we stayed in ended up being like Beatles themed. And like the bar was awesome. Called like Helter Skelter Bar. Yeah. And then I didn't realize this, which is sad because I love the Beatles so much, but Hamburg was like such a huge city for them that they played in. So when we went on a walking tour, they took us by these bars that they used to play at all the time, that they had like signed, they were like on a plaque, like it was crazy. And I was just like, I had no idea any of this was here, but I'm so glad that this happened, you know, at this time. So yeah, it's really like moments like that that make me really want to write about it and tell people about it, because I feel like that can happen to everyone, and I'm sure it does happen to everyone. And I think the biggest thing too is just like, you like just learn so much and you soak in so much when you go see another place and you learn about how people live or how they live similarly to you, you know? It's like, I don't know, it's just like so fascinating to me.
And I want to know, because you mentioned a really interesting point, is some of these places really do resonate with you, but some of them are just more mundane, but you still enjoy the experience of being there. What was a place or a culture that you got to experience that really resonated with you, and one that was more mundane, but still you enjoyed the trip for what it was?
Oh, this is hard. Okay. I don't know. I've liked so many places and I'm like, I loved it there. I loved it. Okay. I really, really loved, I really, really loved Greece. Mm-hmm. And the people, the food, like the historical monuments that I was able to see, it was like absolutely fascinating, and I really loved it. And it's one of those places where you really feel like you're like back in time, specifically in Athens, like the Acropolis that sits above the city. Like you have to climb up to that thing, and it's crazy. And it was like 110 degrees out. People were fainting and like falling off the mountain. But we were determined to get there, and we got there.
Love it.
Just like a
Proud
side
of you.
note. Just a side note. But yeah, people fainted, they fell off the mountain. So, I was getting to the Acropolis.
No, it's true. They were closing stuff that day because so many people were fainting because it was so hot. And it was crazy. I've never been in 110 degree weather, and I was not ready.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
also
sure.
Probably like a super dry heat, right? Because
yeah, it was
right in the Mediterranean, close to the equator.
It was dry. It was a lot. Like we were definitely like dehydrated by the end of the day, but we had, we were obviously drinking so much water. But yeah, I think Greece is probably one of those places. Same with Italy. I feel like you go to Italy and you really like, I'm in a different world. Like Rome and the Trevi Fountain and like all these cute little streets and stuff, like, or like the Vatican. Like you feel like you're in a different world. Mm-hmm. And then I think one of the more mundane places that I still absolutely love, and I would never talk badly about it, is London. And that's simply, maybe it's because like we speak the same language, because their culture is still different than ours. Mm-hmm. And, they carry themselves differently. And so there's still like so many differences, but I would probably say it was a little bit less of like a culture shock, I guess. But I still like really loved my time in London, and I had so much fun. I like Westminster Abbey is beautiful. Going inside is beautiful. And then from there I went to Liverpool. So also cool. But
shout out to the Beatles once again. Those are really great. No, you're fine. Don't worry. Those are really great experiences, and I'm glad you got to have them. Is there a place that you haven't gone yet that you would be very excited to go to?
So many places, but I am really hoping to get to like Southeast Asia or Asia somewhere, because that's obviously something I haven't experienced. And I really, really hope to get there. I'd hope to see more than one spot while I'm over there because it is so far away. But, it obviously also depends on my work life and how much time I can have off and all that. So I might have to do bits and pieces, but I know I'm going to at least see some of the things I want to see over there too.
So Erika, we have been talking a lot about your traveling and experiencing new cultures and where you would like to go and experience new cultures. What is your best way of trying to learn and experience a new culture, especially when you go somewhere new for the first time?
Yeah, I'm going to say, I think one of my favorite things to do is to go on a free walking tour, because almost, at least everywhere that I've been, and like I said, I really haven't been to Asia or that part of the world, so I can't say for over there, but I'm sure in the big cities at least that there are always walking tours. And the nice thing about Europe is a lot of companies have tours in multiple cities, and so basically they'll meet in like a main area, and then you go on a free walking tour for however long it is. It could be an hour, maybe a little bit longer, depending on where you are and how much there is to talk about. And then from there, you usually like leave a tip with the tour guide, and then you go on your way. And a lot of them have morning tours and then afternoon tours, and they can be different. Like I know that I've gone on 2 walking tours in a day because it was a different part of the city. And I think those are absolutely the best way to do it, because you're not paying a ton of money, and you're going to talk to someone who is going to give you history about the place you're in, but it's not an all-day event. It's a couple hours, and then you get to really go enjoy yourself, or like go to the restaurant that he recommended that you walked by or something. And then on top of that, you can meet people in those tours, and they can tell you, like, oh, we heard this place is good, we're going to go here, and you make friends. And same thing with the tour guide. You can say to the tour guide, like, hey, where should we go for dinner? Or like, where is like there a place to dance or something like that. So I think that's the best way to do it, is to really take advantage of the free stuff and talk to the people that provide that to you.
Very nice. So one of my favorite things to do, whether it's on camera or off camera, is to talk about food. And obviously food is a huge part of travel.
Love food.
Same. Can
That's amazing.
you give me, just off the top of your head, what is like the best meal that you have had that you could not stop thinking about once you came home? I really come with these loaded questions.
These are really
hard-hitting
hard.
questions over
I
here.
did not prepare.
Tommy's the
Oh
good
my
cop. I'm the
goodness.
bad cop.
I definitely have pictures of everything I've eaten, so that's one thing. But okay, can I answer with two at least?
Of course. You can.
Two things. Okay. One of them is definitely fish and chips in England, because that's like one of what they're known for, and
It's a
it is
staple.
and it is just as good as people say it is. And I recommend getting fish and chips. I think I had fish and chips like 5 times in 1 week, and I was like so happy. Yeah.
Perfect.
Lots of potatoes, but then the other thing is in Germany, it's currywurst. So it's like curry sausage, and it's like in a curry sauce.
Oh,
and it's delicious.
that
It is
sounds
like
really good.
Yeah, and it's not like you get it off like a food truck, like everywhere. It's everywhere.
That's awesome.
But it's so good, and I also definitely had currywurst like probably way too many times in a small amount of time being there. But yeah, those two come to mind.
Those are two great
Sounds
choices.
so good.
Chris, have you
it's
traveled
so good.
anywhere?
I mean, I've traveled in the United States, but like the only place I've been out of the country was the Dominican Republic, and that was when I was like 9.
That's fun. But there's lots of food across America.
Well, that's true. I mean, like I've had really good, like barbecue in the South.
Yeah.
Like that's good. And over the summer I went to New England to visit my sister in Rhode Island, and like we went to Massachusetts, and I had really good seafood there.
Yeah.
So like there's definitely, and honestly, like even living in New Jersey and working in New York, like I've had even exploring New York, I'd say like that's the most amount of travel I've done in the last year, and like finding all the different good types of food you can find in New York. Like I have found the best dollar pizza you can get. I have found the best sushi, well, at least to me, is sushi, Korean barbecue, best, tacos numero uno in Fidei in New York. It's like,
it is so much fun.
It's so much fun. Like that's why talking about food is so fun, because like you can talk about international food, you could talk about regional food in the United States, you could talk about hometown food. I mean, Erika, we could talk about places where we grew up that were good places to go and get food.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of chain restaurants around here, but there's also some good like diners to go to for food. But
yeah, definitely.
We're talking about fun travel, not Ocean County travel.
And I think like when you talk about New York, I mean, it's like that might be part of the reason why I love to travel so much, is because I've been able to spend so much time in New York City, and it's like so incredible to go from, like the Upper East Side down to Fidei or to Chelsea or wherever. Like I've had some crazy great experiences just like going all over the city and trying new places to eat. I mean, like you cannot beat it. And the people that like don't like the city, I don't like them because they're weird. Because it's just like I don't know, like it's just like incredible. Like you things change in a matter of blocks, and it's so exciting, like. So
yeah,
awesome.
I mean, one of the things back when I first started at my job, we had to do like a different commuting route on the weekends, because there was construction being done in the Oculus for the path. So like I'd have to take like the path to like Christopher Street, and that takes you into Greenwich Village, and I have to take a subway. So like it's just fun even on that sense. Like on a normal commute for me on one of these days, like I'd go into Greenwich Village, I'd walk around, I'd see all these people, like especially on the weekend, like the people you see in that area, everybody's having fun. There's so many bars and people are just walking around. It's so nice out. And then you take the subway down, and Fidei has its own feeling to it.
Oh, they're so different. It's amazing.
Yeah, New York is so much fun. It's such
the
a cool
best.
place.
I'll never forget. I wrote this article for the Setonian back when I was like a sophomore. I got me a press pass to the Tribeca Film Festival, which was so much fun. Yeah, and it was like a baby press pass, so like.
But still,
I had to weasel my way to things, but I got to screen like every film for free, and I didn't have the time because it was college time, so I did it around my schedule. Like on the weekend, I would go in. And it was so much fun. And like Tribeca is beautiful. Like, there are like millionaires that live in Tribeca. And like, I had never been there. So I was like, this is so cool. Like, can you imagine living there? Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, that was so much fun. And I did it, I think I went to the festival 2 years in a row, and one of them, for the article I wrote, I got to talk to a director and a producer and for one of their films, and that was fun. It was just a different experience. And another thing was I got to go to like a red carpet before a film premiered, and I got to this is fun. Ready? This gets me a gold star. I got to talk to Viola Davis. I don't know if you know who that is.
So cool, of course.
I asked her one question, and she really wasn't like happy with my question, but I still did it, and I was just like, this is amazing. Like, but yeah, that was fun. And I think New York City is just like that energy times 100.
Well, I mean, yeah, we know all about the baby press passes thanks to all the sporting events that we got to go to through PTV. And I mean, like getting into like Madison Square Garden.
Oh, being a student is the best.
It's really a wild time just being able to get into these places for free and just seeing some stuff you'd never even think.
It's so cool. And I think like that goes back to Seton Hall, and just like we did have a lot of great opportunities, you know, and that's something that I think I'll never take for granted, and I'll always remember those things, you know, and just super cool.
Yeah, and one of the cool opportunities that you've gotten to do, other than the Setonian and WSOU and PTV, you were also a yoga teacher at the recreation center that we had on campus. And you're a big yogi. You've been doing it for a long time, a great teacher and everything of that nature. What got you into yoga?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So like I said, I was a ballerina since I was 3. And then coming to Seton Hall, I was aware of dance teams, but I really didn't know what they were doing and their caliber. And I found that I didn't fit in with either one of the 2 dance teams that were at Seton Hall. So unfortunately, dance kind of stopped for me when I went to college, except for my freshman year. I would like go into the city and take classes at one of the dance centers sometimes. But of course, like that was a lot to do on the weekend. So that's really where like yoga started to become bigger for me. And I started to take class, and I bought, her name's Yoga Girl. She's like a huge yoga influencer. And now she's written a couple books, and I've read them both, but I bought her book and I like fell in love with it and her philosophy behind it. And just from there, I started practicing a lot more. And then that summer is when I decided that I would get certified to teach at least in like gyms, which is like a very small certification. It's not like a 200-hour super serious thing. It was just so that I could teach at the gym. And it was enough for me at Seton Hall. So of course I took it, and they were looking for a yoga teacher because Sarah, who was there, was graduating. So it became me. And at first I was teaching like 3 classes a week, which kind of felt like a lot. But yeah, I remember like I was super nervous at first, and I didn't know what kind of music to play because I wanted to play like the Beatles and like John Mayer, and like I started playing like it sounded like space, like that kind of music, like weird. It was weird. And now that I think about it, I'm like, they probably thought I was so strange. But I was so nervous, and I finally like grew into my groove really. And I think one thing that really helped me was like, I mean, I love to make fun of myself. So I started doing that in class, and I would just like make kids laugh. And I think it made them more comfortable, and they didn't like feel nervous around me or around like other students. And a lot of my friends would go, so I would interact with them and make them laugh, you know. And I think it kind of just like made the whole energy a little bit different, because I think people are intimidated by yoga. And they think that because they don't do it now, or because they're not flexible, or because they can't stand on their head, that it's like not attainable for them. And that's like the exact opposite of what I wanted people in my classes to know. There used to be faculty members who would come to my classes, and one of them, he's such a nice guy. His name was Frank. Frank was, you know, a little bit overweight, and he didn't have the best mobility, but he would still come to my class every week. And it was like just such a nice feeling, but also like I knew he really loved it, and he knew he was doing something good for like his body and his mind, you know. But yeah, I had some great experiences. I had a lot of athletes that would come, which was great because it's great for athletes, you know, for like injury prevention and all that. And yeah, I remember like my last class was like pretty emotional, and I think I like cried and everything, because it was like 3 years of me doing that, and like sharing that with students was so much fun and like heartwarming.
Yeah, and sharing the experience with people, whether it's music or yoga, whatever the thing is, I think that's really something special. that we're able to do with each other, and a good way to show connection between people. And you've been doing that a lot for diabetes. You live with diabetes, and you've been educating people during Diabetes Awareness Month and things of that nature, and trying to make people more aware of what you're capable of, how to live with it, how to cope with it, and everything of that nature. So if you wouldn't mind just speaking on your experience with diabetes and why you've decided to educate other people with it.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed at the age of 4. My mom is a type 1 diabetic as well, and that's why I am. It is hereditary in my case. And I mean, I was the luckiest kid because my mom is a nurse and has a certificate in diabetes education. So in a little bit of a different way, she generally helps people that are type 2, but still, she obviously has the disease herself. So like growing up, I was in like the best possible hands I could be in. So yeah, I mean, the only weird thing is like I really didn't know any kids with diabetes until I was about like 16. Because I ended up going to diabetes camp. Did you know that there's diabetes camp?
No.
This is amazing.
It's amazing. Oh my God, so much fun. So basically the premise of the camp really is like diabetes takes a vacation, which is not true, but they want you to feel that way.
Yeah. And
every camper has diabetes, and every cabin has like a nurse that they take care of those campers for the 2-week session. And it's funny because it's like everything has a carb count on it, and you know, like there's always snacks around for low blood sugars and stuff like that. But it was so much fun, and I made some great friends and like great connections there that I still talk to today. And I think maybe around that time is when I really kind of like really started to like come into my own skin, you know, as like a young adult, kind of, I guess like a teenager adult. But I was really like no longer, not that I was ever ashamed of it, but I never really was outwardly talking about it openly. So I think around that time is when I just felt like it's kind of my job as someone with the disease to really speak out about it and to make sure that those around me are aware of my situation in case something does go wrong. And in case, you know, like they can't get a hospital to me, you know what I mean? Like, it's better for everyone in the long run if people around me know what's going on. And I knew I felt like it was my duty really to just start raising awareness. And then I think in high school, maybe it wasn't high school, maybe it was college, that I post like one photo a month during November, which is National Diabetes Month. And really my goal, and still to this day, my goal is just to like even teach one person one thing. Like I'm never out there trying to get likes and to get noticed or anything like that, but I just want like one person to notice one thing that they didn't know about my disease. And, you know, just kind of, I guess, sort of hoping that people will start to think about other people, you know, like have compassion, and not with just with diabetes, but with like everything. I think people don't realize that everybody has something, and that there are a lot of people out there with diseases and disabilities and all these other things. And like, we just need to be compassionate towards those people. And like, you know, like maybe just listen to them, maybe just learn a little bit more before we say something like ignorant, like you can have that cookie, or like you gave that disease to yourself, which like is the complete opposite. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I've gotten really passionate about it, but yeah, I'm always just hoping that one person will learn one thing from me every November. And I think I do a pretty good job. At least I've been told.
I'd say so.
Yeah, I'm tuned in every November as well. But it is really important to be able to teach other people that are willing to learn and everything of that nature, and keeping an open dialogue and learning about people's different things, whether it is diabetes or just anything in general. Unfortunately, I think we've run out of time. But Erika, I want to thank you so much for sharing your experiences and just coming on and being our first guest. You're a great first guest, the optimal first guest that we could have for the 2021 season of Quarantine Catch-Up. For Chris Famularo and for Erika Szumel, I'm Timer Rinaldi. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and have a nice day.